Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel every week. The wheel chooses the movie they discuss, and they discuss it. Today, we are talking about the 2011, 2012, wherever you were when it got released, the film The Cabin in the Woods, which was directed by Drew Goddard. I'm your co-host, Alec.
I'm Erik.
And this movie is fucking awesome. I just want to
Yeah.
say that right from the start. I love this movie. I wasn't particularly looking forward to watching it again because I'd seen it so many times, but the second it started, I was like, can't wait. I'm all on board. What'd you think, man?
Yeah, before we get started, this is our first film we've watched since October 31st, since Halloween, and this is the new wheel.
Mhm.
And I kind of feel like that scene in Nightmare Before Christmas where the mayor comes knocking on Jack's door, like the day after Halloween. He's like, Jack, only 364 days until Halloween. And like I just love that we're doing this throughout the year. So this would be fun to do once a week. But yeah, like you just said, this movie, Cabin in the Woods, 2011, such a good ride. It's an hour and 35 minutes of just solid entertainment. And other main thought is it gives me so much faith that Hollywood is like, you know what? Let's try something original. Let's take a risk and see how it
Mhm.
goes. This
Yeah,
is so original.
this movie is so original. I mean, if you haven't seen this movie and you're listening to this podcast, I recommend you go watch it because we're definitely going to spoil some things. But my God, that is interesting what you're saying about like risks or whatever. This movie didn't do that great. The budget was 30 million, which is actually quite a bit for like a horror film that is very
Hmm.
original and a risk, but it only made 66 million, which obviously is a profit, but it's not like, it made back twice its money basically, but that's not including marketing, it's not including anything like that.
Right.
So it did do well, but again, it didn't like blow the roof off. And I think after this movie came out, I think a lot of people started watching it like on DVD and streaming and stuff. And now it's like a lot of people know what it is.
Yeah, it's got some star-studded power. You know, it's got Chris Hemsworth, who was in Thor the same year Thor came out. I think Thor came out in 2011 as well.
Yeah, so they filmed this actually before Thor and
Yeah,
it came out after Thor. So
it's wild.
yeah, so imagine his career. He did not know what he was getting himself into. But
Well, I like it. I like it's a lot of variety for Chris Hemsworth.
Mhm.
Hemsworth. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see more original movies like this. Sigourney Weaver shows up at the end for like her 3 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
It probably took her like 10 minutes to film that scene. I love that she's in it at the end. That's so cool. Yeah, the ending though is next level original.
Well, let's just kind of work through the whole movie. I mean, because
Yeah. Let's
the
talk about it.
whole thing, it starts off. First of all, I just want to say this: my favorite characters like ever are Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins. Their chemistry in this movie, it's like I could watch that forever. Those guys just talking. So it starts off. They're having some weird conversation about like baby proofing Bradley Whitford's
The
home.
cabinets.
Yeah, and then you're like, "What the fuck is this movie?" And then they're riding, like, through what looks like a really old it almost looks like NASA from, like, the '60s, like, all the computers look kinda old, and the dials look old, and all that stuff. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it has that like they're driving around. It's an underground feel. You
Yeah,
know, they have those carts that are like usually underground for like research facilities or nuclear testing sites, kind of like feel like GoldenEye.
for sure, but did you notice, though, like, the computers, they looked old. They
Yeah,
did not look like they were from now.
yeah, good point. Yeah, the computers looked way older than 2010.
Yeah, and they were saying that, they've been doing this for a long time and things have changed, and they're mentioning like, "Man, remember how easy it used to be? We could just throw a girl into a volcano." And he's like, "How old do you think I am?" So like they've been doing this forever. So I wonder if like they went computerized or whatever with this in like the 60s and then it's just been staying like that ever since. Cuz
I think that the technology has to be a worldwide technology because you can see the other countries like Russia's linked into it, Japan's linked into this whole like hiding the gods underneath the earth, and they're all like, "Oh, Japan just failed. Oh no, Russia failed. Like, oh, it looks like America's got to pick up the pieces again."
Mhm.
And I just think that's so cool. So I think the technology has to be like all across the world. You know, whatever Russia has money for, whatever that all has to be the same technology. That's what I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so yeah, no, that does make sense. Yeah, that's such a cool idea. So basically, the whole premise of the movie is they work for this company that essentially orchestrates different horror movie scenes for these people to sacrifice to these ancient gods. But what I
Mhm.
took from it is they're basically making movies essentially, and like we are the consumers. Is that how you saw it?
I didn't see it as the movie part of it as much as it is just like a ritual sacrifice. And it's a big ritual sacrifice. And it's like that's where these our movies are stemmed from. Like every movie has the jock, the whore, the virgin, the scholar. It's just giving us the cookie cutter movie. And that is actually no, it's not just our movies, it's because of the ritual.
Yeah, no, that's the first time when I saw it, that's exactly what I thought it was. I was like, "Okay, so this is, like, sacrificing to the ancient gods or whatever." But then they do say, like, they're watching sort of thing, and they like boobs, and they like blood, and I was like, "That sounds like
Yeah,
consumer."
I think that's the underlying thing. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I looked into like more about it, but
They're not clear. I think they leave it up to your interpretation, but the first time I watched it, because you see that hand come out and you're like, "Okay, so there is, like, an ancient race of people that need sacrifices, and they have to be in a certain order and stuff like that." But these rules were invented by American filmmakers in the '70s. So it's just it is kind of interesting, the
yeah, the
the
timeline
version.
kind of adds up.
But yeah, I love Bradley Whitford and their character, and I love how, yeah, it goes from Japan, and you get to see their version of what they came up with, and it does look like The Ring or The Grudge or a lot of their kind of style and stuff like that. You get the Argentinian one, which is it looks like a Godzilla, like a monster. Yeah, such cool variety. And this movie essentially, you can watch any horror movie and apply this sort of like logic to it and be like, "Oh, that door slammed. Oh, must be that Bradley Whitford probably pressed the button." That
Yeah,
sort of thing.
I love that scene where it's like, hey, why didn't the goddamn tunnel explode? It's like, well, something happened upstairs, and then you see him like upstairs, and it clicks like, oh, the people found our equipment, and it's the stoner guy messing with the wires and stuff
Yeah.
that he was able to stop the tunnel explosion just by his ripping the wires and stuff. And I thought that was so cool. Like there's levels to this. There's the cabin at the top. Underneath it are the monsters underneath the cabin, like the elevator room.
Mhm.
Underneath that is where the workers are, and underneath that is the gods and whatnot that
Yeah,
used to rule the earth.
because you see the hand at the end destroy it comes up and blows through the house and then slams on a camera or whatever. Yeah, so there are all these different layers.
I like thinking of that, like the levels of this, how deep it goes, and it's like, oh, it's kind of cool, like to picture that.
Well, dude, even if you look at the poster, it's like a house that starts to, like, twist, and it kinda looks like a Rubik's Cube,
Hmm.
and I really wish I watched the trailer before, we did this podcast because this movie surprised the hell out of me. It was not marketed like it was gonna be like this. You know, you look at the poster and you're like, "Why does the house look, like, weird?" And then you see the movie, you're like, "Oh, because, like, the whole thing is like a Rubik's Cube, and there's all these different monsters that are, like, going, moving sort of thing." It's such a I don't know, man, it's a genius idea for a movie.
I can't really remember everything in my head of what I remember from the trailer, but I remember watching it and thinking, and this was like 10 years ago, that it was like a reality TV show, The Cabin in the Woods, and like
Mm,
kind of like they were watching them. There was no like no other idea besides like and there's that scene too where he finds the camera
yeah,
and he's like, I'm a reality TV star.
right.
I think that was where like it was going. Like it had like not where the movie was going, but like the trailer was kind of like making it seem like that.
Mm, okay. You could not have left that theater being like, "I knew that was gonna happen."
No, no, no
That's where
one
I
did,
thought this
dude. That's
movie was going.
crazy. Well, it's also one of those movies like, man, I really wish I could watch that for the first time again because I watched it this time again. It's like I know everything that's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and it's like, ah, I want that feeling again of like not knowing where this is gonna go. And it's such if you haven't seen this movie, I mean, obviously we're spoiling everything, but if you know people that haven't, just tell them, hey, you should watch this movie. It's really a cool ride, and you won't even see it coming, kind of thing.
And it's not even like that scary. It's more like it feels almost like a comedy action sort of thing, obviously with horror elements, but I don't
Oh, it's like the perfect stoner movie, I think.
yeah, I love it. Weed saves the day, basically.
The last thing he does is like he's dying like on the thing or whatever, and like I'm like, oh, he's gonna spark up if he doesn't have anything on him. You know, sure enough, he pulls out a lighter and he sparks up a joint. And I'm like, oh, this guy always has it on him.
They do say the weed thing there where she's like, "They gave him a weird batch and it's none of our chemicals are working because of it." Alright. 3 things. 3
Yeah,
things.
keep going, keep going.
So 3 things about this movie that I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." This is the most important thing, okay? So, like, this is the world ends or we do this right, okay? You're gonna tell me that they're not going to quadruple billion times check that weed to make sure it's not the batch that's gonna ruin everything. Okay, so that's 1. The other thing is they're not gonna have a security guard standing right there so that that character can't pull apart the wires so that they can't blow up the bridge. Like, this is the most important thing in the entire world, and they're not gonna have a guy to make sure. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's 2. The 3rd thing is, you know, when, oh, yeah, the end where, the 2 younger people have gotten into the basement, all of the monsters have killed everybody, and they're in the room where they says, like, "Purge," where it says they, like, press the
Yeah,
button.
that button, like, hey, the button that will really mess up everything.
That would need to be more guarded than, like, the fucking Mona Lisa, and they're
Yeah, I
like,
bet.
"Yeah, these people just kinda walked in this random room that wasn't locked, and now they can press this button that will destroy everything." So,
Yeah.
if regardless, love this movie, but come on, get the security.
I would say, okay, so the weed thing, the first thing you brought up, sure. Like, hey, he's not reacting to the pheromones we're releasing and the stuff that makes you like choose. Sure, you could say like, hey, it's 2011. Weed has definitely evolved over the years. You know, we're still working with old technology. Maybe we got to up our pheromone game.
Yeah,
You can make that excuse.
sure.
The second thing you brought up was like, why the hell isn't there a security guard? Well, that was not a security guard in the elevator. That was a security guard in the chamber where the guy gets out. So he can go through the grave, and then down is where the elevator ends up. To have a security guard in every single one of those horror people areas, that'd be insane. That'd be
You
insane.
know what's
So
more insane? The
I don't see
world
that,
ends.
but they would definitely have some kind of trigger, like, hey, like camera in there at all times to monitor, like, hey, sensor go off if you see any motion or
Yeah.
whatever. For sure, I agree with that. The button thing, couldn't agree with you more. That button should not exist. That's like a hey, fire all nuclear weapons everywhere in every which direction button.
Yeah, and it's just
It's like that
located
doesn't that should never exist.
in a
Like,
closet that anyone could get into. Yeah, it's just like,
oh, yeah, that's the one. Like, that's the one thing.
that should be the most guarded room in the entire thing.
In the entire world,
Yeah,
right? If this is, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
You should never have a button that exists that can let all those monsters out at once.
No, no, no. But very cool though, and it also kinda makes you think about the monsters in a different way, like they're prisoners, and, you know, like, imagine Michael Myers, when he's not on camera, he's locked in a fucking box like that, and then they take him out for the sequels, and he's just like, "I don't wanna do this," and it's like,
No,
"Eh,
he's just letting out his aggression for being locked up so long. He's pissed
seriously."
off.
'Cause, like, they do have that one guy with the saws in his head who's, like, you know, clearly not a pinhead, and you're like,
Gearhead kind of thing.
he's got well, yeah, but instead of the death cube, he's got the circular
Yeah, which Chris Hemsworth was playing with, and
yeah.
they recognized it, and it's like we chose. Oh,
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool, and it's so funny how they make bets about, like, which one they're gonna choose.
I love it because it just gives the show like, hey, you know, this is what happens when you've been doing a job so long and you start to get a little loosey goosey and you don't pay attention and dot all the I's and cross all the T's. They start drinking before it's really over. They start partying, start taking tequila shots.
"Tequila is my lady!"
Yeah, dude, I love this movie. It's so good. And it's
Dude,
like it's like this is what you get when like you don't take things seriously because this is a serious thing. But they've been doing it for so long
yeah,
that they're like, you know what? It's just like another day at the office. You know,
dude,
they
yeah,
don't
you
need
got
to.
Brad or, what's his name? Richard Jenkins eating the sun chips, like, "Watch the master work."
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that idea. It's like, dude, you're there
Oh.
protecting the world. Just like, oh, it's just another Wednesday. I gotta fucking fix my cabinets when I get home. Like,
Well, it's like, what's his name too, when the bridge didn't blow up and Richard Jenkins is like, "Alright," he's like, "I'm gonna go do this, you need to make sure you do this." It's like, "What the fuck do you think I'm doing?" Like, sort of thing.
yeah, I know. It's like, oh, like I love their. It's like the guy from Billy Madison, the guy from Step Brothers, and it's such a great combo of
Dude,
those two need more of their own movies together. They're hilarious.
I like, their chemistry is literally, like, it's
Gold,
it's so
gold.
good. Yeah, it's, like, so, so good. I like that song, man, when they think that the lead girl's gonna get murdered, and it just,
Yeah.
like dude, that the way that song plays and they're, like, partying what is it? It's by,
Oh,
uh,
it's so good. I
it's
forgot what song it was. Like,
it's, REO Speedwagon. It's, something changed or
yeah,
Turn
it's like
Turn the
something
Page.
80s ish, and it's so perfect for the scene.
Oh,
I like how the intern, like the intern won half of the pot. He's like, "Hey, I'm Brad. I'm the intern." It's
Yeah,
like, I just won our big bet."
I don't
Like,
qualify for OT.
oh, I love it. I like you're about to see the girl naked and like it's like here's they've seen this so many times that she like finally gets naked and he just like goes score. Like, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts again. It's like, it's so good.
The stoner character too, he's really good. He's like a
He's my favorite part of it.
great voice of reason for everything. I love how when they're like, "Yeah, we should split up." He's like, "Yeah, we should." And he's like, "Really?" Like, sort of thing, like, "What the fuck are we doing?"
Well, that character is what the like this movie was made with marijuana. This whole plot was just definitely just like thought up by a stoner on a Denny's napkin having like really bad paranoia issues.
Dude, it's the guy who
And
wrote the Avengers movies wrote this.
really?
Yeah, it's Joss Whedon.
Oh yeah, Josh Whedon. That's right. Oh, definitely. Like completely came up with this. Like got really ridiculously stoned and was watching a horror movie and thought this up and then wrote it down on a notepad
I
or
mean,
Denny's napkin.
it's brilliant, and it seems
It's brilliant.
so straightforward, but you're like, "Wow, this is."
Yeah, he does Buffy the Vampire Slayer too, like that guy, right? He's like definitely this is how that came up. That character came up with the movie, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I love his bong, dude. That's such a cool bong, that
The
coffee.
coffee mug.
Dude, that's awesome, and the way that he, like, constructs it back up, he's like, "What? I wouldn't bring a thing in your dad's van." He's like, "What are you, high?" And he, like, builds it perfectly. That's such a good shot. My favorite line maybe not my favorite line, but I think the funniest thing that anyone besides Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins says is when Jules, the blonde girl's, like, ridiculously dancing by herself, and then Chris Hemsworth just goes like, "Fuck yeah, baby." Like, he's, like, so drunk.
And he's like, why is he acting like this? He never acts like this. Like, why is he? What, did he call me an egghead? Like, why
Oh,
is he talking like an '80s bully all of a sudden?
yeah, I know, it is kinda funny though, because they are like, "I've never seen, like, Kurt act this way," and I'm like, "You guys don't seem like you would be friends even if this wasn't like this."
Like, why is he wearing his Letterman jacket? All he never wears that thing. Like
"Fuck
stuff
yeah,
like,
baby."
yeah, he's like drinking beer. Like, yeah, baby,
Yeah, cheat on me, babe.
yeah, show everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, another thing now I'm just thinking, like, random things, but when, the scene where they go into the room and the see-through mirror and he sees, the girl, so he's like, "Oh, wait, don't do this," and then he immediately gets naked when he goes in the room.
Come on,
Yeah.
come on,
I was
come
like, "What are we
on.
doing here?" Like, what
It's
the
like I'm a nice guy, but then I'm gonna be like, yeah, look at me.
Yeah, but, like, do you think he genuinely forgot? I mean,
No, no, dude, he didn't. No way.
he takes
He's
his
like,
dick
dude,
out.
if he had a six pack like that, it's like, okay, he
He
knows what he's
doesn't
doing.
he doesn't just take his shirt off, he's about to whip out his dick,
Oh, that's true. That's true.
immediately, so I'm like, I don't even think anybody would have that kind of courage to be like, "Here you go."
Yeah. How do you? That was like literally 1 minute ago. You didn't forget that that's a see-through mirror.
Yeah, that was a little
It's
odd.
a reach. Yeah, but also this movie just feels like a one giant setup to that merman joke when he gets killed by the merman.
Yeah.
Like this whole movie was brought around that one joke.
Dude, do you notice when, they're, like, in the beginning, they're kinda, like, mocking everybody making votes or whatever, and he's like, "Okay, Aquaman."
Yeah, dude, it's a big build up to that
Lower.
merman joke.
Watch Bradley Whitford after he says like, "What do you mean?" And then you see Richard Jenkins, like, talking to other people. Watch Bradley Whitford during that, dude. It's freaking awesome acting. You literally just him kinda, like, sitting there, like, looking at him like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, and you just I'm telling you, watch that scene again right after he says, "Okay, Aquaman." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And watch Bradley Whitford only. The camera's not on him, it's on Richard Jenkins talking to other people collecting money. Watch Bradley Whitford. It's so good. It's
What does he do? Is he pissed off that everyone's finding out he's betting on the merman, or
it's almost like this weird kind of like he knows it's weird that he has this obsession with the merman, but he didn't think anyone else knew he was so obsessed with it, and now Richard Jenkins is kinda, like, pointing it out, like, "We all know that you vote for this every year, and it's not that subtle," sort of thing, and he's like, "What do
yeah?
you"
Well, it sounds like he bets on it every year because he
No.
just really wants to see a merman.
Right, and I think other people are starting to pick up that he's kind of way too into them, so it kinda hits him there that, like, "Wait, are people, like, thinking about me?" sort of thing, and he kinda
I
looks
just
at him
want to see a merman. Like,
Yeah. And they kinda joke, they're like, "Okay, Aquaman." Like, watch Bradley Whitford after that scene, it is gold.
yeah,
Gold, the look that he gives Richard Jenkins, like, "I'm gonna fucking fuck you." Like, sort of
yeah. I'm gonna rewatch that then. But like, I wonder if like that when they go down into the cabin basement, if like he set up the conch shell like front and center. Like he
Mm,
went in there specifically. He's like, if they're gonna come in here, what's the best spot I could put the shell
yeah.
for them to pick it up? I would like to see that. Like him setting up, like, come on, Aquaman, pick this guy up. Like,
Yeah, I mean, they could do prequel series. I mean, Buzz
I think it would never be a sequel because
no,
obviously
can't.
you know what happens at the end of this. A prequel could happen,
Yeah.
and one of the prequels it could be is they mention a glitch in the '90s.
Yeah, 98, the chem department.
There you go. What would be a good prequel idea for you? What would you call it?
Uh, I don't know what I would call it, but I think it would
Or
be
like,
cool to see, like, the origin of, like, Psycho or something like that, or, like, the first of a movie. Be like, "Listen, we're gonna try this new experimental type sort of thing." I don't know if it would work though, man, honestly, because the whole gimmick of it is given away in this one,
yeah,
so I don't know if you wanna see too much into it. It might almost ruin it in a weird way.
yeah, almost like if they do anything, it would be like the making of Cabin in the Woods, and just like make it a pun on like how like movies are made, but really it's just making how they make this whole ritual set up and like how they
Mm,
set it up, how the cleanup works every week.
yeah,
You know, all
maintenance.
that stuff. Like, hey, they got to clean up the dead bodies and stuff, and like, hey, set up the tunnel again, and like
Mhm.
stuff like that. And or maybe they can do like Cabin in the Woods trial and error, and like they have like a bunch of people like when they're testing out the Cabin in the Woods for
Yeah.
the first time.
Yeah, I think it'd be
Um,
interesting to see, like, a board meeting where they're, like, having discussions about, like, "Alright, so what if we have the Jedediah brothers or whatever come in this side?" Or but, like, yeah, they would have to create scenarios because that's the thing, at the end of the day, whatever these people choose, these directors or whatever, they need to know exactly how it's gonna play out, so they have to know all these scenarios in their head, so it could yeah, a prequel could be simulations of these scenarios and seeing how they go to test out for the real thing.
yeah, and it could be fun, but obviously it's kind of it would kind of feel like beating a dead horse
Yeah, yeah,
by the end of
exactly.
it.
I like this, I think they could leave it alone. I mean, this is
For sure, for sure.
I think it's hilarious. I think it's got very cool graphics, and I did watch a behind the scenes thing. Most of these graphics are real. They're not CGI. There's very little CGI that was in this movie. Most of it's at the end, obviously, with all the alien. I mean, the like
Yeah, the
monsters.
ghost flying all around, and then the god with his hand at the
Yeah,
end.
this well, yeah, and the snake. But most of the stuff, like that scene when the elevators open and all those things run out and like murder all those
Yeah,
SWAT guys, dude, that was all shot not realistically, but all of the guys were like on strings and they would shoot their scenes individually and then put them all together in post. That's pretty cool.
yeah. So they put them all on wires and like kind of yank them and stuff and throw them up in the air and stuff, right?
And they would shoot one individually at a
That's cool.
time. So they'd have like a guy like Justin SWAT, and he'd be like attached to all these wires, and then like the doors would open, and then they'd CGI the snake in, and they'd whip his body in real time, and then they'd shoot that, and then shoot another guy, and another guy, and another guy, and then put them all together at once with the aliens and the zombies and the werewolves and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I can see it being like pretty not low budget, but like really a really good way to utilize your resources. This movie does a good job of doing that.
Yeah, no, the director Drew Goddard, he I saw like an interview or whatever, and he was like, "I want to go as practical as possible. He's like, if we can physically make it, I want to make it. I don't want to use CGI."
I like
And
that.
then he said that was a huge mistake.
Really?
Yeah, he was just like, he's like, it's what a first time filmmaker would say because they don't realize how much work actually goes into using
Yeah.
only
You see
practical.
what Tim Burton does? Do you know why he does that way now? It's because it's a pain in the ass. Like, if you look at Tim Burton's movies, like from the '80s, like he did a full sets, full puppeteering stuff, like
Mhm,
amazing stuff. And now it's like you see a Tim Burton movie, a set is just a giant green screen,
I
and
know.
it's like why? It's like you know what? Like it just makes the day go by easier.
Yeah, same with the Lord of the Rings guy,
Peter
Peter
Jackson.
Jackson. I mean, look at
Yeah, dude, they kind of cash out, and it's like, yeah, but like, I would rather be in a room with sets and cool shit than I'd go crazy in a green screen room all day. I'd just lose my mind just seeing green.
well, apparently, and I don't obviously know if this is true, but apparently Ian McKellen like started crying when they were filming The Hobbit because he was just like he's like this is not acting like it's just like
Ugh.
him in front of like a screen talking to like a box.
Well, it's yeah. Did you bring up a good point? I know the recently Sean Connery passed away, and that's one of the reasons why he retired from acting is because
Oh,
in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he's like, I don't like this CGI baloney.
yeah,
It felt unreal to him.
right.
Oh man, that kind of makes me sad about you, McKellen, dude. Don't say that. I also saw Christopher Lee, who also passed away, like I think a few years ago. The guy who plays Saruman.
Yeah,
Um,
Count Dooku. I mean, he's in.
Count Dooku, yeah, he's in more movies than anyone, I think.
Yeah,
Like seeing him film his like final scenes for The Hobbit, it was like, ugh, dude, like this guy deserves so much better than to be in a fucking room of green screens.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad that in this movie they did go as practical as possible, and you know, I think the acting is great in this.
It's
I think
fun.
all the
It's
characters.
fun. It's not supposed to be like super serious.
No, but they all really play to their strengths. Even I like the Mordecai guy too. Like he doesn't have that same kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of like real vibe that it looks like okay, he's got a lot of makeup on, he's got fake red eyes, like sort of thing. But I still think he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, and I love how he calls them and they mess with him like any other coworker. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's so good. It's like, oh, Mordecai calling, like, am I on speakerphone? The blood will flow, and the gods will. It's like, okay, Mordecai.
He's like, all right, Morty, I'll see you later.
Am I still on speakerphone? It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it has a lot of comedy, a lot of great. I mean, I think the Buckners or whatever, they're pretty scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Like
dude. With the girl with the
they
one
talk
arm
about
and the guy with going with the trap.
yeah, they're talking about cutting off the girl's arm and stuff. You're like, oof, in that diary. So it does have some scary elements, horrifically influenced by Evil Dead, which I'm fine with, but
Yeah, and
uh,
obviously the door flipping open. It made me think of you. You know, when the basement hatch opens up, it's like, was it the
yeah,
wind? I was like, oh, that's straight out of Evil Dead. An
yeah, but they don't.
animal.
Yeah, it's the stupidest thing I ever heard. No, the door blows open. It looks just like the cabin from Evil Dead. You got the basement with all this like weird stuff, and then they read something, and then the demons come. So yeah, I love looking at the board of all the things that it could have been.
Oh
Like
yeah,
all
I didn't really. I should have paused it and looked at it more.
yeah, the one thing I saw, it was like evil tree monster, and I was like, oh, that's from Evil Dead.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah, this is like I don't know if it was like it wasn't like rapey trees, but it was
Rapey
like
trees.
it was like evil tree monster, I think. Oh, and dude, the best line is when that woman's like, "I voted for zombies." Like, no, 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 no. These are torture, like hillbilly zombies. It's like calling an elephant seal and an elephant. Like,
Yeah, dude, it's
completely
good.
different.
It's clever.
So funny. Yeah, really, I really enjoyed this movie. It's like made for horror fans.
It's a good ride. It's an hour and 35 minutes. Just you're in, you're out. You get entertained. No other way to say it.
Yeah, you definitely get your money's worth, and yeah, it's got everything. It's got everything. I love it. I love it.
A stoner's dream. You know, the puppeteering. Like guy figures it out. The stoner saves the day. I love it.
Basically, yeah, weed indirectly saves the day, but they still die, so no one gets saved. But it's all good. Actually, you know what? I kind of feel bad for what was her name? Patience, the girl with the one arm, the demon who at the end actually ends up saving the day
Yeah,
when she comes
yeah.
up and he kicks her off the edge or whatever.
Yeah, and then she goes like into like the pit or whatever.
Yeah, she's probably like, really? She's like, it took me so long to get here. It's like I just saved you. That and then, dude, Dana can go fuck herself.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? I get it. Like, I get it, but you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I feel like she was gonna shoot Sigourney Weaver though.
I thought she was too, but she wasn't.
She was gonna
She got,
really. Oh, that's not cool. But
dude, she got the gun pointed at him and then says, like, I'm sorry, it's the whole world, and then if she was joking around, just immediately pointed at Sigourney Weaver. I don't know. I didn't like that, but whatever. Stoner dude, good dude till the end.
yeah,
You go, bro.
kind of like an anarchist. Like, hey, humanity's done, man. Give it up, humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. The last thing, just before we go to, I love the line where Chris Hemsworth is about to go off the cliff or whatever. I feel like if I had never seen this movie and he still says, give it all you got, bro. And he's like, always do.
Always do. Yeah, dude. That's
No matter what, even if I hadn't seen this movie, I'd still be like, he's going to say always do.
yeah.
Like, oh,
It's the greatest way for him to go out was that jump.
oh, dude, he gets messed up.
Dude.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, he falls for like three solid minutes there.
Yeah, they're like, let's get the climbing gear. It's like, dude, you're not gonna fucking climb
No,
down
dude,
that.
you're not getting out. I've jumped
Uh,
bigger jumps before.
where?
Yeah, I know. Like, dude, it's like this is pretty, and like the fall is not like a normal fall.
Like, you got a 5-foot differential on the other side. I'm like, dude, no, this is so dangerous. What do you say? Spin the wheel here.
Let's spin the wheel. No, good one to talk about for sure. Spinning the wheel. Ooh, we got the Mummy.
Little Brendan Fraser. I haven't seen this movie in a long time.
I haven't seen this in over 10 years, and I'm really excited for that because when I watched this one, it was like every day this was on TV, like 20 years ago.
It was like, FX has the movies. It's like, actually, we have X-Men 2 and The Mummy Returns.
And that's about it. Scorpion King next month, though. Like,
yikes. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening in to our discussion on The Cabin in the Woods. We will see you guys next Monday for The Mummy.
Ooh.